Thanks for tuning in to the Playbook ATS podcast for this Thursday, the 18th of December, 2025. We're almost at 25-25, guys. Another week, Christmas.
You mean 25-26?
Well, 25-25. I mean, I'm talking
20,
Christmas
25.
12,
26,
25,
yeah.
25. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be funny. Yeah, I don't want us.
I was thinking of the old Zager and Everett song in the year 25-25. That's a song.
Okay.
60s.
You're talking about 12-25-25?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're never going to get those. There's no such thing as 25-25-25. So 25-25 is the only time we're ever going to see that in our lifetimes. Anyway,
Yes.
Marc Lawrence will join us here in a few minutes, and he's been very busy as usual getting ready for part 2 of the bowl guide. Part 1's already out. You can check out the links in the description of this video, where you can go to playbooksports.com and order the bowl guide, which is a very valuable resource if you are going to be handicapping the bowl games and the playoff games. So I suggest
Highly recommended.
Yes, absolutely.
It's outstanding, as it is every year.
Yes,
Yep.
That's true. Every year it's the same. A very valuable tool, definitely.
Part 2 comes out following the Christmas. Actually, it's the the Christmas Eve game. That's the final game of bowl guide number 1. And so all the other games following Christmas Eve game between Hawaii and California will be part of bowl guide number 2. And so that's what Mark is working on right now. Of course, we have NFL Week 16 to talk about. Only 3 more weeks until the playoffs. And, I was looking at some of our predictions earlier this season. And so I
think we all had Kansas City making the playoffs.
No,
we
actually,
we did not.
No,
we did
not,
not.
Jim. You had. I know you had
No,
Denver
well-
winning the division.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. So I'm going to give everybody's, and Mark just joined us, so I'm going to give everybody's top prediction for either surprise team or most disappointing team.
Hi, Mark.
And Mark, speaking
Hey
of
guys,
the
how we doing?
Chiefs,
Sorry, Jim.
Morning,
Go
Mark.
ahead. Sorry.
And Jim.
Mark's most disappointing team prediction was the Kansas City Chiefs. So that was your top prediction, Mark, for our most disappointing or surprise team. The 3 of us, our best picks were surprise team, most positive, but Mark's happened to be for most negative. I don't think Mark wants to say who his surprise positive team was, so I'm going to skip that. So the positive teams, though, for us, again, these are all just our most successful.
Hey, Greg, wait a minute. I didn't say most positive team, Kansas City.
No. I said I didn't want us. I'm not going to disclose who you had for your most positive team.
Okay,
You
you'll have
wouldn't
to
want us
remind
to
Just tell us
disclose
it
that.
wasn't the New York Jets.
me. You'll have to remind me. Jim, do you remember your most positive team?
I thought Tampa Bay, I think.
No.
Rams,
No.
maybe?
Again, it's most surprise positive, like really better than anybody thinks. But Tampa Bay would have been up there. But we all know you had Tampa Bay as a top pick anyway. But no, Jim, your top most surprise team was the Denver Broncos.
Oh, okay. I did pretty good with that. Okay.
Yep. And Andy, do you remember?
I know that I've liked the Chargers for a long time, going back to last
Better.
year.
I think it's better.
What was
Your
the team?
pick? What your pick was? I think it's
Better than the Chargers?
better than the Chargers. I think.
The other one would have been the Rams.
No, that would have been too easy. Jacksonville.
Oh, okay.
That was excellent.
I'm
Excellent.
trying to remember what I liked about Jacksonville, actually.
Maybe
I think
the
I
coach.
think a lot of it had to do with the coaching change, getting rid of
Yeah,
Peterson.
Liam Cohen's done a great job there.
Yeah.
By
the way, another candidate for a coach of the year. A lot of good candidates this year. Vrabel might win it. Ben Johnson could win it, but certainly you'd have to say Sean Payton could win it, and Cohen could win it.
I
Ben
would
Johnson.
say Mike Vrabel would get my vote, personally.
You would have him over Ben Johnson?
Well, one or the other. There's no question.
Okay.
The only problem I have with the Patriots is their really, really soft schedule. They took advantage of it, but you really can't. But what Ben
But
Johnson
Andy,
did coming
you
into
can't
a
put an
division.
asterisk next to it and say, but they had a soft schedule. They had a great
No,
year.
but
is what
no,
they
but
had.
you could explain. But you could explain to people why you didn't vote for him. Why someone didn't vote for him.
If they ask, yes.
My most surprising team was actually just picking Carolina to finish in second. So that was my best.
Well,
pick.
you may be wrong about that.
I might be wrong about that. They might finish
Yeah,
first.
they might win the division.
And so you can check. That's the great thing about what we do here is that if you ever want to find out what we our predictions for anything that we talk about, we don't delete any of the videos. They're all on the channel, so you can check it out and you can find out who Mark picked for his most positive, surprising team, and we'll let you fish that out on your own. So anyway,
I got to answer.
Oh, was
Tony
that
here.
a hint?
I got to answer. Tony here.
no, it wasn't.
There's
Fish it out on its own.
My
No.
wife is not going to allow me to bet the Browns plus 10.5. She'd shoot me if I did.
Don't tell her.
There sounds like some hometown bias, and hometown knows what they're talking about.
Hide the betting ticket with your socks in the drawer.
You're right.
All right, Mark, I'll let you take over.
All right, guys, a nice chit chat there. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late jumping into the fray here while we were talking about what happened so far this football season. I want to share this with you guys, and I've done this a little bit before in the past, but this is going to surprise you a little bit here, I think. Given the fact that where we're at in the National Football League season, there are only 3 teams that rank overall in the top 10 offense and defensive yardage categories. Who are they?
Well,
Top 10?
Mark,
Let me see.
Mark,
Let me
I
see if
read your thing, so I know them, and I'm not going to spoil this. But
Okay.
I'm surprised that 3 teams ranked there, and one of them are gone.
And one of them are gone. Yeah.
New England,
Bottom of the
Seattle, and
playoff.
Kansas City.
That's exactly
That's
right.
my
Andy,
guess.
you read the script also.
No, I keep this data myself every week. I put
I've got you.
Yeah, but
I
it's
kill a lot of
amazing that
trees each
one of
week.
them's actually out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Unbelievable.
And now
Yeah.
they might have also just ruined their chances to be in the playoffs next year because it looks like Mahomes will probably miss half of next season.
You mean you don't think Minshew's going to carry them?
I wouldn't
I
bet
think
on
he
it.
should, I think this will be a trial the last 3 games of the season to see if
Starting this week, Jim. He carries them starting this week.
yeah.
That's a heavy load.
Yes, it is.
And for half a season, I mean, why not? I mean, he's the type of quarterback that I think that they would feel okay. I mean, who else are you going to get? I mean, it's not like, especially to be, because once Mahomes comes back, you're back to being the second string. So nobody's going to want to come to Kansas City that's any good to be the backup.
Good quarterback.
I was going to ask Mark about the situation in Miami. My theory is that they're benching Tua. I'll let them leave a message. My theory is that now that Miami has been officially eliminated, I think, and the people are talking about trading Tua and all that or getting rid of the contract, and I think part of it is that let's give Ewers a chance to show what he can do. Can we use him next year? In other words, I don't know that it's necessarily a benching of Tua because they don't like his play from the other night, but I think they want to take a look at him. They know a little bit more about Zach Wilson from his time with the Jets. So I don't know if you have any more information about the rationale or the reasoning behind that, Mark.
Well, I think the timing is what it was, is that because they were eliminated, it was time for Miami to make discoveries. And they know what they had in Tua Tagovailoa. The fans are really coming down hard on this football team, especially every time they hear that he's making $55 million a year and watching them play as disgracefully as they have. As far as Quinn Ewers is concerned, to me personally, he's just a career backup. I don't think he's going to ever be anything more. They found that out when he saw some spot playing time against the Browns earlier this year. We never saw any more of Quinn Ewers from that point thereafter. And I think it's Mike McDaniel who's taken the biggest flack of this whole situation here because he stood by Tagovailoa even after they were talking about firing Mike McDaniel. Even though the talk was that he was going to be given a pink slip, he still stood by Tagovailoa. And he did it for as long as he could possibly do it. So I understand the move. I completely get it. I saw him in his post-conference interview, and I could see it, total frustration in Tua doing the interview. And he wanted to say so badly, you could just see it so badly, if these players would run their friggin' routes and do what they're supposed to do on every play, we would have a chance to compete. And he said that before and he got called out on it. And he almost wanted to say it again. I think they got a bunch of undisciplined players there in Miami.
So it's not really a Tua problem.
Well,
Partially,
to a
but
degree.
not. But he's not as responsible for what's going wrong as the public, as we think it might be. It's a lot to do with the other players around him.
That's
Is
that's
a
not
contributing factor.
Not everybody believes that. If you listen to some of the analysts and that are kind of objective, he's just pointing fingers away from himself, and it is his problem. He doesn't if the play called initially works out exactly the way it's supposed to work out pre-snap, he's fine. But if the defenses make any shifts, which a lot of them are doing these days, he doesn't do very well after that. He's a small quarterback. He doesn't see as well over the line. That's a couple of the things. But he is a pre-snap quarterback, not a post-snap quarterback. And he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. He's just not. He's not made for today. I'm sorry. He hasn't looked good for a long time.
I agree 100%. He's a nice person, a great human being, but he's not a National Football League starting quarterback as we're sitting here speaking today. And that's the reason the Dolphins made that move. They have to make a move in the future. And I think they're looking at what they have as opposed to what's coming up in the National Football League draft as well. They will unload Tua's contract. I don't know who's going to absorb it. I think Stephen Ross will end up taking the brunt of that, but he won't be with the Miami Dolphins next year. I can assure you that.
Who would want him, Mark?
Well, you've got teams that have quarterback situations and problems, and it might say, if we've been this bad, using these pieces of garbage, he might be a step up, and he might be. But you called out all his deficiencies, and you're right about that. His lack of size, he cannot scramble. He takes unmerciful hits when he takes hits and concussions and everything and so forth and whatnot. So there's a ton of downside to Tua. And that's the reason I say that, number one, they took the job away from him, and number two, he will not be in Miami next year.
Well, I think another thing, which I'm willing to give him a pass on, is that they've had a little bit better improvement this year with the offensive line. But their offensive line the last couple of years was as bad as any offensive line in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, a big part of their offense, left, obviously, with the injury earlier in the year. They didn't get anything out of the tight end spot. That's why they had to go out and get a retired guy who actually, when he came in, did pretty well. It just shows you if they had actually somebody there, a young, good tight end, that could have helped them a whole lot. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we criticize him, too, because of how much money he's making. I mean, he's clearly making too much money. There's no way he's that type of quarterback. I think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he deserves a shot. I think he's a fearless kid. We know what happened with the concussions. The fact that he's still playing shows you that he's a tough kid, and you want that. That means he loves football, and that's important. You want a player like that. And I was happy to see what he said. Look, I'm not a Dolphin fan. I don't follow them. I'm sure when I get a chance to talk to Jason Sarney, who covers the Dolphins for us, I'll talk to him. I'll ask all these questions. But just from the outside perspective, when I hear a quarterback come out and say what he said, I'm all for it. That to me means that he's taking control, he's being a leader. And then what I didn't like was having him come back a couple of days later and apologize for it. That, and I understand probably why he did it, but look, that's part of the problem I think at Miami, and they're going to have to decide whether to move on from McDaniel or not, because all of a sudden after this winning streak, there's now talk about whether or not he should stay. What do you think, Mark? What are you hearing down there?
Are you talking about? You talking again about Tua?
No, McDaniel. Do you think that he'll actually, if he closes the season strong, and they win another couple of games, do you think he'll actually stay?
That's hard to say. It just depends upon how impressive they are closing the season strong. The owner's wishes, the coach's wishes. I can't speak for them, and I really wish I had an answer, but I don't.
Is there any coincidence that when they fired the general manager, the Dolphins started winning?
It could be. I mean, he made some horrific moves. He's the one that overpaid Tua. There's no question. And he probably wasn't well liked in amongst all the players in the team.
Let's forget the Dolphins made the playoffs just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and when Tyreek Hill was with the football team, they were a little bit more talented, but he was a cancer in the locker room. I think they were better off without him, as it ends up being. He'll be gone here as well. So you're going to see a total rebuild in Miami come next football season.
And he deserved to be fired. I mean, look, he should have traded Tyreek when he had the chance. Now you get nothing for him. So that shows you, that's he mistake after mistake after mistake, and he was the GM for what, 15 years, 10 years, or something like that. Ridiculous long amount of time for a team that is not does not have a winning culture.
Watch what's going to happen. The Dolphins and the Giants are going to make a trade of inept general managers.
Hey, let me respond here, guys, to Toma, and he asked the panel for recommendations for the recreational bettor. I don't know why recreational. We're still in it, whether we're wagering $5 or $50,000. We're still wagering. What are the best free sites for portal transfer, sit-out information for the College Bowl season? That's a really great question.
I'd say Greg's the expert on that.
I agree. Greg should answer that.
Okay.
Before I hand off to Greg, I'm going to just let me say this, Greg. I do have a complete list of all college football opt-outs for the bowl games. I'm going to be publishing it this weekend in the Weekend Coffee Club. So if you get your coffee club, be sure to check it out. But I'd love to hear what Greg has to say. Yeah,
I'm actually I saved it not too long ago because I was looking over just that. I'm looking it up right now to see if I could answer his question right away. I know one of them just off the top of my head that you go to is 247. They do a really good job of tracking and following what you're looking for. CBS Sportsline's not bad either. So that's something. If you're looking for good
how's our lads? Because I know because they do are they exclusively college football? I know they do a lot of college football.
There's NFL, but college football primarily because of the draft. That's what they do more than anything. But they don't have like a opt out or they'll update as we get closer to the deciding like the date of when you have to declare if you're going to go pro and all that. They'll have that type of information available to you. As far as the opt out, believe it or not, I mean, there were two of them that I found out, and the one is obvious to you guys that actually looked pretty good to me, and that's covers. So I'll throw it on the screen so you can get an idea of what the covers want to look like. Now it looks like to me that most of them are early in the bowl. So you go here, covers, here you go. You got some of these games here. So what you would do is, let's say we got the game today. You would just come down here where it says opt-outs, click this, and there they are. And you get the players, you get the coach move, you get the injuries. So there are injury updates, coaching moves, and opt-outs for every team at covers.
That's pretty interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you can
the
check
good thing
that
is
out.
it shows it school by school, and they isolate the game, so that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Now when I went all the way down here, I remember seeing like not as many. So I think they're just going to update them sort of like we all would. You see how there's not a lot of information here. So I think it's just a matter of closer we get to each of these games, I'm sure there'll be more and more information for everybody to check out. So yeah, covers. Not
Great
bad.
question.
Well, from the quick little overview that I did from the list that I got, I can share this information that it appears as if California is really rifled with not only injuries, but opt-outs. And they've also got some coaching changes there here, obviously, as well. So it's a football team that's not going to look a lot like they were supposed to when they accepted this bowl bid. You've also got Louisville, who is really they have a handful of opt-outs and a bunch of injuries. So as Greg said, check all that information out. Go to those websites, dig down deep because it's only going to be helpful. And as I say, I'll do an overview this weekend here in the Coffee Club this weekend.
Yeah, and I went over in the video on Tuesday night. I went over all the games just like Mark did with the guide up until the Hawaii game. And so I updated. I went over because I used the covers list for all of my information. So and there are some key players in these bowl games that are not going to be there. Like just for instance, the Hawaii game, they have a 1,000-yard receiver that opted out. He's like their best player. So these are things you got to keep an eye on. I mean, starting quarterbacks opting out. You really have to pay attention to this because that's the way the bowl season is nowadays.
Yeah, it makes
I
it
think
really
the
difficult.
NCAA has to give serious. I was going to say NCAA has to give serious consideration to modifying the portal transfer rules. They went from totally restricted to basically anything goes, wild, wild west. They need to have a rule that says if you use the transfer portal, say in 2026 or 2025 to go to 2026, you cannot opt out and play and have eligibility for another school for like 2 years or 1 year at least. You got to sit out to discourage it.
Well, from what I understand, they're going to make them sign a contract that they have to stay for so long.
Okay, that accomplishes the same thing.
Yeah, that would be nice. It would be nice if these transfer kids had to stay at least 2 years. At least.
I said about 20 years ago, we're going to see kind of like, like Walmart has a bowling team. Ohio State's going to have a football team, all filled with contracting outside players who are not students. And it makes sense because, let's say there are 100 members, athletes on the football team in the colleges. That's 100 college seats that you're taking away from people who are there to get an education. So let's stop the hypocrisy. It's a business. It always has been a business. Now it's above board with the NIL. You're denying people who may not otherwise have an opportunity to become, electrical engineers, nuclear physicists, surgeons, whatever, because that spot is being taken up by an athlete who has a scholarship, as opposed to an outside contractor player who's getting paid NIL money. Keep it separate.
Yeah, it's sort of like, basically saying that the colleges are going to be divided by sports and education academics, where sports always drove academics, was the money driver for those schools. And like you said, Andy, it's a whole new world we're living in now, and the hypocrisy is just sickening. It's just totally unbelievable. Hey, guys, let's do this if we can. We're talking NFL. We've got Jim Feist here, and this is Jim's bag. Jim's what he does best is the National Football League. And before we get into a conversation here, let me share this with you. I always review the playoff picture as it is here today and right now. If the playoffs started this week, what would they be? This is really kind of crazy. But if the playoffs started this week, nothing would change from last week other than one small change, meaning that the number 1 seeds are the same, the number 8 seeds just on the outside are the same, the pairings are the same. The only change from last week is the fact that in the NFC wildcard round, only one team flipped. The number 7 Bears are now the number 2 Bears, and the number 2 Packers are now the number 7 Packers.
And that could change again this week.
It's unbelievable. I don't know if it talks about how close, everything is going on there, but my goodness, when putting this list together here, it was just cut and paste. I only had to cut and paste one game, one result, and that was the Bears and the Packers, 2-7, 7-2. Just unbelievable.
Wow. How about the AFC? Is that a little bit more volatile?
Well, the AFC is what it was. The 2 Patriots hosting the 7 Texans, 3 Jaguars hosting the 6 Bills, who I think are going to probably end up changing that somewhere between now and the finish line, and the 4 Steelers hosting the 5 Chargers. My biggest issue is, can the number 4 Tampa Bay Bucks in the NFC hold on to that position? They got a big game with Carolina, and a lot will be determined in that game this particular week.
That's the first of 2 games that they're playing in the final 3 weeks.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that one is that even if Tampa Bay loses, they can win their next 2 games, have Carolina lose to Seattle next week, and win the division.
Because they would be defeating Carolina
last
week of the season. Yes.
And Carolina would lose to Seattle next week, and so that they would have the same record again, but they have the tiebreaker. Even though they would split, they have other tiebreakers working in Tampa Bay's favor.
Yeah, just kind of mind-blowing exactly what it is that's going on here.
Is it? Am I correct that the winner of that division can finish no better than 10-7? Unless Tampa Bay wins out and beats Carolina.
10-7. Yeah, because they're both 7-7.
But the winner of that division has had a worse record in years past. With this Tampa run of winning division, they've done it with really small win-loss records. So I don't think that's all that surprising. 10 wins might be rather healthy in that sense, for what that NFC South is all about. It's just, it's just a division of middleweights that just punch each other out, and not that they're any good, they just don't know how to box. That's really what it is.
That's very true.
Yes, it is.
Well said.
Jim, let me ask you this. While we've got you here, what do you find to be the most intriguing matchup on the NFL football card this week? What game is it that you have as must watch, and what game is it that I know you'll have a lot of interest in as far as the rubber band and the bankroll goes?
Well, the one there's several, and the one we just talked about, Tampa and Carolina, is exceptionally interesting because of what Greg pointed out. Tampa loses this game, wins the next two, they'll still win the division. New England and Baltimore is interesting. I mean, we give a lot of credit to Baltimore for beating Cincinnati last week, but it looks like Burrow might be a candidate to retire like Andrew Luck did a couple years ago, being just totally uninterested in football anymore. These are teams that are in contention, but the Green Bay Chicago game is a monstrous game. I mean, if Chicago happens to win this game, I mean, I don't know. Is Tampa Bay or not Tampa Bay, Green Bay guaranteed a playoff spot, or are they
not yet?
No,
they're not. Okay. I mean, they suffered quite a few injuries last week. Not everybody has injuries now at this time of year, but they suffered quite a few injuries. Could they slip out of the playoffs if they get beaten the last three games or lose two of them? I mean, I think it's
mathematically.
Go ahead.
I think it's mathematically possible, but if you take a look, there seems to be, the Rams. You got Seattle, you got San Francisco in the West, who are all in good shape. You're going to have at least two out of the three teams in the NFC North: Green Bay, Chicago, possibly Detroit. Okay, so that's 6 of the 7. You've got Philadelphia wins the East, let's say, and let's say Tampa Bay wins the South. So that's 8 teams for 7 spots. So it could very well be that Green Bay could miss the playoffs. If they lose to Chicago this week, they could lose.
Wow.
They won't be eliminated by losing to Chicago, but you basically now have 8 teams with only 7 spots available.
Well, the good news.
You're also looking at the Lions in pretty precarious situation as well as Pittsburgh as well, because if they would lose and Baltimore wins, what is that situation? I guess it goes down maybe to last week. There's so much to be settled in these last 3 weeks. It's pretty incredible. And I'd like to ask this question: who is the most dangerous team right now that's kind of coming out of the weeds over the last few weeks that nobody will want to play?
Houston.
Hey, there you go.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
And Jacksonville is a close second.
Yeah, and the winner of that game will decide who is the most dangerous. They're both playing some really good football right now.
Well, I think Jacksonville and Houston have already split, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have.
I think it'll come down to the Jacksonville-Indianapolis game. Because Houston, I think, just has who do they play? They play, I think, Tennessee to end the season.
Does anybody believe that Indianapolis with Rivers can perform well consistently enough to – I mean, last week was kind of a game management issue, and he did okay. But, now that you see some tape on him, and there's got to be a lot of question about arm strength and mobility issues. And
didn't he give you like vibes?
San Francisco can't get to the quarterback, so that's a big plus for him.
When I was watching the game, you guys know more than me, Jim, Mark, but didn't he give you vibes of like Johnny Unitas? Didn't he look like Johnny Unitas back in the day? He's got that Colt uniform. He looks like he looks his age. Because when Johnny Unitas was playing, when he was old, he looked like this big guy. You could tell he was old.
Didn't he finish with the Chargers? Unitas?
He did, yeah. But that's what he reminded me of. I was like, hey, I feel like I'm looking at Johnny Unitas again in a uniform. It was just so funny looking at how a 46-year-old guy in an NFL uniform.
I think Indianapolis is going to decide who wins the AFC South. Their last 2 games, Jacksonville and home to Jacksonville and at Houston.
Well, that's going to be really tough. If Rivers is the quarterback, and I guess Richardson might be, but that's a tough 3 games to end the season.
Yeah, the Colts opened up 7-1. They may go 0-7 out to end this football season here. And, maybe not all of that is on the loss of Daniel Jones. They were beginning to unravel as the season wore on. My question is how beneficial will Phillip Rivers be this week as opposed to what he was last week? You always see this rally around the backup quarterback with a star quarterback injury. And the Colts were playing that way last week. We thought we were going to see an upset in Seattle. It didn't happen. But now that Phillip Rivers has got that game under his belt, is there as much positiveness to the Colts this particular weekend as there was last? And the other question I want to ask you guys is, will Phillip Rivers throw a pass of more than 5 yards in this game?
Well, if he'll throw a pass more than 5 yards, will he complete it?
I don't even know if he threw one last week more than 5 yards.
How about will he throw a pass beyond 20 yards?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
it's a little more reasonable. That might be a betting proposition.
I was being a bit facetious there. Yes.
I was impressed with him. He didn't make a lot of mistakes. He threw the 1 interception, but the problem is San Francisco is well coached. They got a very solid defensive coordinator. Saleh is, and he's now seen a film on him, and there's not a lot of surprises now. You see, there's only so much this guy can improve in 1 week. Yes, he's going to have a week of practice, but he's still Phillip Rivers, limited arm, totally no mobility at all.
I come after him on almost every play, make him make quick decisions, which he hasn't had to do for 5 years.
San Francisco doesn't get to the quarterback, but if you blitz him all game long, this is going to be chaos.
The problem I'm still having with San Francisco is the same problem that we were having with New England. If you look at San Francisco's schedule, their last games they played against winning teams, they lost to the Rams, they lost to Houston, they lost to Tampa Bay. So they're 0-3. Then they beat the Rams. They lost to Jacksonville, as Andy said. So that puts them at 1-5 in their last 6 games against winning teams. They've been beating Arizona, Carolina, Cleveland, Tennessee, the Giants, Atlanta. So, and we knew that before the season began. And remember, they're still a banged up team. So I think what's happening is they're so well coached, like Jim said, and they're still a very tough team, but they can handle the bad teams. But when they play the better teams, that's when they really miss the talent.
Well, the interesting question there is Indianapolis.
The question I would have here is Indianapolis, as Mark pointed out, they're not really a better team anymore. They started the season out as one, but they've been on a bad roll for a while. So, well,
if the game was pick'em, I'd understand that, but I'm getting almost 7 points in this game. I think after the Colts were a missed 53-yard field goal away from winning that game as a 13-point road dog. And I don't think they're getting any sort of what would they, you know what I'm saying? So if he misses the field goal and they win the game, what is it, a 3-point game all of a sudden? That's.
Okay, well, let me ask this question. We saw what the score was in that game. What did they score? Total 30 points or 35 points or something like that?
18-16
combined.
How can this game be considered not? How can you look at this line total and say this won't be an underplay?
What is it?
Where are all the points going to come from?
What's the total?
46.5.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
46.5 is the total, Jim?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, because this presents a very difficult handicapping decision, because if you take a look at Indianapolis, yes, they've lost all those games in a row, but look at the margins. 2 to Seattle. They did lose by 17 to Jacksonville. Before that, a 4-point loss to the Texans, a 3-point loss to the Chiefs. That was after the bye. They had beaten the Falcons overseas. They had lost to the Steelers by 7. You're getting a lot of points here for a team that has a decent record, played well early, but even now in their losing streak, they would cover that 6.5.
And it is home.
The question, at some point, you have to be able to score touchdowns. And that's not going to happen very often here. Not against a solid defense. I don't see it happening.
Check this out. This is only the second.
And the Colts have a pretty damn good defense. They're actually a very good team without a quarterback.
That's what
This
they
is
are.
only the Colts' second home game since October 26th.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
This is only the 5th time they'll be a dog this year, and they won the money 3 other times of those 4 football games. So they've been competitive in roles when they've been cast in that of an underdog. And the scheduling is all in their favor here with San Francisco coming into their venue here. But I just, if I'm backing the Colts and I don't cash the ticket, I'm just seeing these bad images and thoughts of Phillip Rivers trying to be a quarterback once again.
It's an unfortunate situation that they don't have a really good backup that's there and been there all season. I mean, this is an unfortunate situation, but to bring a guy out of mothballs 5 years later, boy, that's a tough one.
Do you think they brought him out of mothballs because he was a former Colt, or because he was the only guy that they could put their hands around?
Well,
there's been an existing relationship between him and the head coach.
That's correct. That is correct. They work together. He knows their system and everything.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of familiarity.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it shows. And remember, they made that deal with the Jets, so they've given up that first-round draft pick. They did it because they wanted to go for it this year.
The thing with the Colts. Go ahead, Craig.
No, I was going to say. So yeah. So basically, that GM. Everybody is under the microscope with new ownership, and he's gonna now. I got to assume that the new owners okay this, and if they did and they were excited about it, then they can't hold the GM responsible, especially because hey, who could have predicted that? Even though maybe you should have in a way that Daniel Jones was going to get hurt again, but that's what they did, and it'll be interesting to see if he holds on to his job.
And that's where I was looking as far as the Colts. Early in the season, let's say by mid-October, the Colts figured, hey, we're off to this great start. We're probably on a path to make the playoffs. At that point, Richardson was on the IR, and the only backup that they had to Daniel Jones, I believe, was Riley Leonard. So they could have done something at the trade deadline in case Daniel Jones, who does have the history of injuries, went down. And they could have, for example, the Giants had the 3 quarterbacks. They had Wilson, they had Jameis Winston, and Dart, the rookie. Yeah. So they had 3 quarterbacks. Dart is going to be the future. So the question is, could they have traded perhaps for Russell Wilson? Think of him what you will. He's an experienced quarterback that would be sitting there in case the Colts needed him. Or Jameis Winston, who's been, a reasonably effective quarterback. He takes a lot of flack. Some of it's not all his fault, but, with the interceptions and everything. But I thought the Colts, much like the Vikings, although the Vikings weren't in such a great position, but the Colts certainly, when they're like, 5-1 or whatever, it says, you know what, we should have some backup insurance in case Daniel Jones does go down. I think that may have been a mistake.
Yeah, I don't know if Richardson had a setback with his injury. That's the only thing I could think of, is that he was supposed to come back, then he had a setback, and that screwed up all their plans. I'll have to look at that.
But even then, wouldn't you still prefer to have an experienced quarterback as opposed to Richardson in case Jones went down?
It's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, at least like a guy on the street. I agree with you. Like you could have brought in CJ Beathard. And they even talked about Rippon. I mean, what's so bad about Rippon? You brought him in. He's got starting experience. I don't understand why they just didn't sign Rippon or just let him play. I don't know if they did sign him or not.
You talking the elder or the junior?
The son.
The junior. Yeah. Yeah. Now we have to clarify that.
Yes.
We're getting old when we're talking about players whose fathers or grandfathers played in the league.
Exactly.
That we remembered seeing.
Hey, Jimmy, you asked a question.
Like Phillip Rivers, he's the grandfather.
Yes, he is. Right.
But his son didn't play.
And I can relate to that. I'm sure a lot of us can as well. Jimmy, you asked a question earlier before about what team in the National Football League would concern you the most if you're a team and you don't want to face and have to play. And if I told you that there were a team in the National Football League that has won the yards 13 games in a row, would you be fearful of that team?
Yes.
I would too. And that's the Seattle Seahawks. They lost the stats their first game, and they've won the yards in every game they played since. By far, head and shoulders the best team statistically that way in the NFL. Buffalo on their heels at 12-2.
Where are the Rams?
No, over the Rams. The Rams have lost, I think, this. They have 3 in the stats losses this year to the Rams.
What I was looking for there is the surprise team, but that's why I came up with Houston.
Right.
But I agree with you. Seattle is the question here was Seattle, and maybe you can answer this and how you feel about it. Darnold has had this history of not showing up in these big games. This is a big game this week, and
tonight actually.
Yeah, but he's going up against a real classy quarterback and a classy quote head coach, and he doesn't have a real good reputation of actually showing up. And the last time they played, arguably they easily could have won the game, but he threw 4 interceptions.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the reason right there. 4 picks. They won the yards 165 yards.
I know.
So, like you say, he choked a bit in that football game, undoubtedly.
And yet they only lost by 2.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
They're a quality team. There's absolutely no question about it. They could win this division very easily.
I've had the Rams in Seattle, according to my numbers, 1 and 2, probably since about week 7 or 8, maybe even a little earlier.
And they played just that way, Andy. They haven't backstepped at all. Neither.
Well,
of
you
these
said in the stats, Seattle's what, 13 out of
13-1 in the stats,
and the Rams are 11-3 in the same category. Well,
exactly.
Should be up there, yeah. The thing that's surprising is where Philadelphia is. I think they've had only 2 or 3 stat wins this year.
Philadelphia is 4-10 in the stats this year.
So they picked it up a little bit the last couple.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
You know what? I'm not when I look at both teams. The reason why I just feel a lot more confident with the Rams, I just don't really like, and I don't know if it's a product of personnel, but I just don't like the way that Seattle puts too much pressure on Sam Darnold. They just don't run the ball enough. And in my opinion, the second best player on that offense, the second best skill player on that offense, but behind Jackson Smith and Jigba, is Kenneth Walker. And that kid does not get the ball enough.
Yeah, he should get the ball more, Greg. I agree with you 100%. He's a star.
Yes. He splits the carries. He keeps bringing in this Charbonnet guy all the time.
Yep.
And it's like, come on. Charbonnet's a nice back, but he's a bigger guy. He doesn't have explosiveness. You got to give Walker the ball 15, 20 times a game because he's a game breaker. He can go 75 yards, once a game if you hit the right hole. So I just don't understand why the Kubiak just does not do it. And I think that's going to be their undoing. It's too much Sam Darnold.
Well, the one thing Seattle will bring to the football game that the Rams might not like is they can stop the run. Seattle, I think they're 3rd in the league in rush defense. And if they can control the line of scrimmage there that way, it'll go a long way towards helping them in this particular football game. Now the Rams they're not taking a backseat to anybody. They're number 8 overall in rush defense in the league this year as well. I think this game will be played with, and it should be at playoff intensity in this football game Thursday night.
It's supposed to rain, I believe, tonight.
Yeah. There's been a big line movement on the total, 46.5 down to 42.
What was the big move to Seattle going the solid favorite here, Jim? Was it the Adams situation? Devontae Adams?
Probably.
I would say the Adams situation, yeah. And the fact that they play in the rain and that kind of weather all the time, where the Rams do not.
Here are some trends that I found, and a couple of them just recent. Under Mike Macdonald, who's a very good young coach, one of the better good young coaches we see here. So far, he's 1-5-1 against the spread as a home dog, which he's not now. He's now a favorite. But on the flip side, he's 1-4 straight up, 0-4-1 against the spread at home versus winning teams. And the only
That
straight up
include this
win,
season, by the way.
excuse me?
Do these stats include this season?
Yes.
Okay.
And the only straight up win was last week against the Colts. So that was his first straight up win versus a winning team at home so far.
And the Colts were barely a winning team the way they're closing out the season.
And one of the comments that just came in, Rams with Stafford won all 6 games he started against the Seahawks. That's Trend Tacklers sent that in. Thank you for that.
And the road team has done well in this series as well. The road team has won 6 out of the last 10 and covered with a 4-1-1 record in the last 6, including Seattle covering a few weeks ago when they lost the game as a 3-point road dog.
By the way, this last comment that we're just seeing now from Trend Trackers, McVay and Stafford are 16-3 straight up from week 13 on in the regular season. That I think is extremely significant because that's when you want teams to be playing your best. That's pretty impressive, 16-3.
Unquestionably.
Well, you look at Stafford against Darnold. I mean, who do you really think is going to show up and be consistent with Stafford, obviously? And then McVay against the head coach for Seattle. I mean, you know what you got on one side. You don't know what you got on the other side, although Seattle is a very, very good team.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. It's just, are they good enough to stand up against the Rams?
Well, that's not to knock McDonald from Seattle. He's done a really nice job. He won 10 games last year, and he's got them in position to win this division here again this year. But McVay is really head and shoulders, arguably the best coach in the NFC.
Yeah, both teams are in first place, so even though, again, never know what's going to happen. I mean, one of these teams still drop it and somehow win the division, but probably more not likely because the Rams are going to be favored heavily in their last 2 games. So if they win this, it's over. They're going to win the division. Seattle has 2 tough games coming up. They're at Carolina and at San Francisco. So this is their home finale. So even if they win, there's still a chance the Rams might have, but I think it's important to bring that up. And that's the reason why I like Seattle in the game, is just because I look at this game and both teams feel it, that this is the game for the division. So the best team needs to step up and play that way. And that's why I'm going with the Rams. I just think they're a better team than Seattle.
And keep in mind that San Francisco is still a factor.
You're going with the Rams and not Seattle. I misunderstood what you said.
Yes, I'm going with the team. Yeah, I think the Rams are a better team, and both teams are playing this game, like you guys said, like it's the game of the year. And so I'm going to go with,
It's a big game.
Just a little
I'm with you on this, Greg, because I'd like to go with Seattle for the spot and everything, but the Rams are the better team, and we just saw that record, the 16-3 at this time of the season. San Francisco's still a factor. They get to play Seattle at the end of the season. Rams have already clinched the playoff spot, so they're in the playoffs. They're now battling for the number 1 seed.
I may have shared this before in years past on the show, guys, but my neighbor in my neighborhood just 2 doors down was a quarterback coach for the Miami Dolphins, and got to know him real well. Super, super likable guy. His name is Terry Shea. Used to be a head coach at Rutgers. He's traveled the circuit, okay?
Yeah.
And a real likable person. And he's a quarterback guru coach now, okay? What he does is he takes these kids out of college and preps them and gets them ready for the National Football League. And I asked him, Terry, I says, what quarterback have you had that stood out head and shoulders above anybody else that you've ever prepped as far as talent is concerned? His answer to me was, head and shoulders, no doubt about it, Matthew Stafford. He says, when I got my hands on him, it was unbelievable, the skill level this quarterback that he had. And I just know where he's going to go. He's going to be heading into the Hall of Fame. And here he is now en route to his first MVP award. So when he gets it, I'm going to call my friend Terry Shea and say, Terry, you were right.
You could probably say that now.
Yes,
The fun. Remember preseason when we were talking about the Rams and Stafford, there was all the talk about
the shoulder issue.
Yep, the shoulder issue. Was he going to re-sign with the team?
Issue.
Yep. So there were a lot of concerns, and look where they are now. Yep. Of all the quarterbacks getting hurt, and he just keeps popping up every week, and he's fine. So that's still one of those things, though, you got to monitor, but you got to keep your fingers crossed that he could survive over the next whatever games he's got to play. Probably 6 games to win the Super Bowl.
3-3. Yeah.
Well, Jim, that also goes against our good friend Bernie Fratto, a real nice guy. We both know, very likable personality, really nice person.
Yeah.
And he's from Detroit. And it was his contention that Matthew Stafford was the most overrated quarterback he's ever seen. And, I had to bite my tongue because of my, what I had learned about him from Terry Shea, and said somewhere along the way he's going to show his ways. I don't hear from Bernie Fratto on Matthew Stafford too much anymore.
When did he make that comment? Was it recently?
That was maybe 3-4 years ago.
Well, he worked for
like
the Lions. He worked for the Lions for years, or in Detroit for years. So, and they were a losing franchise for years, even though the 12 years that Stafford was there. But Stafford was a great quarterback when he was there. But he had a terrible team, and terrible management, and terrible everything.
Everything.
You couldn't.
I think the only quality player I think he had was Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, no, Stafford is. He landed with a bad club. I mean, like a lot of teams, a lot of players do. They land with the wrong team.
Which is usually the case if you're highly thought of coming out of college. You're going to a team that's been pretty bad, which is why you're picking
He
one or
came
two.
out of Georgia. He was fantastic.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Another big game is going to see. I want to see how New England reacts to the Baltimore game after losing that lead to Buffalo, which was just incredible. Because if you just go back to where it was at halftime of the game, New England having a tremendous season, long winning streak, lots of questions about the Buffalo Bills, couldn't stop the run, which they didn't do again. And at that point, you had to be saying to yourself at halftime, the Bills are done. This is it. They're done. It's time to put let's shovel the Bills out. McDermott's going to get fired. The Patriots, Super Bowl contenders for sure. And then the second half happened. And now look where we stand. Now all of a sudden it's Josh Allen MVP. The Bills are the team to beat it again. And the Patriots, now you got to wonder about exactly where their psyche is.
If
But the Bills are still looking up at the Patriots, Greg, as we speak here.
Yep.
Yep.
If I am the McDermott, the coach of Buffalo, and if I'm a Harbaugh, the coach of Baltimore, to get ready for this week, I tell you, hey, guys, we just got an early Christmas gift. None of us is going to have to worry about beating Kansas City in the playoffs. This is the year for A, us Buffalo, or B, us Baltimore, to finally win an AFC title and make it to the Super Bowl.
Yep. And you know what? Maybe it's going to be better for Buffalo that they go the wild card route. Sometimes that's better.
Yeah.
It can be. Well, Josh Allen's the most talented quarterback in the league, and he can do it. He has all the tools. A big physical guy, could run, throw. He has all the tools. He's been held back by a lot of things with the team, in my opinion. But there are other really good quarterbacks as well. But this Patriots team is well coached. They have flaws. Vrabel's done a good job. They might have taken their foot off the gas last week and had some problems slowing down, but they learned a lesson from that. I think they'll step up big time against Baltimore, who's not really played very many good games all year long. And Lamar has not been all that healthy all year long.
Mark, I want to ask you, other than that first game against Buffalo, has New England beaten any other team that currently has a winning record?
That currently has a winning record?
That currently has.
No.
That's a concern.
No. They came close against Buffalo last week again. But
they lost to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Actually, the only teams they played
is on the losers list. There's no question about that.
And I think they beat Tampa Bay, New England?
They beat Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay's now 7-7.
Yeah, they've only played two teams, Buffalo twice and Pittsburgh once, that have a winning record.
Yeah.
And their last two games of the season are against the Jets and the Dolphins, and they're playing Baltimore. So that continues. That's going to continue.
But if your schedule is loaded with teams that are all losers, you have no choice. You can't be the winning team if you're.
I was saying that the other day, Jim. I was saying, hey, as a Jet fan, give me that schedule next year. Let me go ahead and find a quarterback and turn to a 7-8 game win streak, and you can criticize my team all you like for the schedule. I'll go, I don't give a shit. We're 8-2. I couldn't care. You're right. Our schedule is bad. We haven't played anybody, but I don't care. So,
well, the Jets could join a different league. and do well.
All right, now.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah, they should join the Mid-American Conference. That way they'll be playing on
right.
Tuesdays.
Go back to the AFL.
Hey, guys, let me duck out of here real quick. I'll be right back. Bathroom calls.
Good old AFL. You remember the AFL there, Jimmy?
Oh, of course.
What is there
Daryl
a team?
LaMonica.
Yep.
Okay. Why is that?
John Hadel.
In particular.
I mean, you talk about bombs away. I mean,
Lance Allworth.
Lance, yes, absolutely.
So they were supposed to be, from what I heard, a very fun league because of that.
It was a
passing
fun
game.
league. It was bombs away. Nobody played defense.
Yeah.
Just put up as many points as you can and hope the other guys couldn't. It was fun.
So there were a lot of overs.
Yes. Although they didn't, I don't know. I don't think they really totals were all that prevalent back there.
No, the totals
really throughout the 1960s.
Totals were not. Totals were not part of the game back then.
Okay.
No, you couldn't bet them.
Yeah, that.
I thought you were done. Sorry.
And that's basically the time period where the Cleveland Browns actually had a winning organization.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about Cleveland. That's a whole nother story. But I'm not sure.
Shador still has 3 more games.
I'm not sure there's any answer for the Browns.
I'm not sure which is more remarkable: the number of starting quarterbacks that the Cleveland Browns have had since 1969, or the number of coaches that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had since 1969. I don't know the number of quarterbacks, but I know the number of coaches the Steelers have had is 3.
Well, the Browns, Andy, would be since 1999. That was when they came back from an expansion year. And they've had a god-awful, inordinate amount of quarterbacks since then. So, that's where I would take that back.
I'm just more amazed at the Pittsburgh Steelers record. 3 quarterbacks in more than half a century. I'm saying three coaches, 3 head coaches in more than half a century.
Correct. Wow.
Yeah.
Who was considered? Well, there was Kozar, and then there was Sipe. So, who was considered the best quarterback for the Browns before Brian Sipe?
Before Brian, Otto Graham.
Frank Ryan. Otto Graham, way back.
You got to go way back to Otto Graham?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was a legendary Hall of Fame quarterback.
When did he play? In the 50s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he
Good
dominated.
old days.
Yes. And he dominated. I would like to say I saw him at quarterback, but I can't stretch it that far.
Jim, did you see him at quarterback?
I saw him, but it was only in old black and white films on TV.
Well, since Mark and I are the same age, I have to say I couldn't see him.
No,
either.
he's younger than you, Jim. Come on.
Yeah,
now
but only by a couple.
Oh, I don't know, Mark. You tell me. Is it a
The
couple
Bills
years?
are in a flat spot. Beat Pats.
Yeah.
It'll change. It'll change.
Well, guys, here's a trivia question for you to ponder over the weekend here. We're going to have something happen in the football playoffs this year that hasn't happened since 2017. The first time it hasn't happened since 2017 in the playoffs.
Is that definite? Is that already definite?
Yes.
Okay, as opposed to possible.
It's definite and it's been decided. Yes.
Okay.
And what it is it'll be the first AFC playoffs that will be no appearance from either Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes.
Hasn't happened since when?
2017.
Oh, okay.
The weather in Seattle, John, is rain, and you'll have some wind as well. It's not. That's why the total has come down so far. And trend tacklers, are the Bills in a flat spot? Of course they are. They beat the Pats, and now the Eagles are next. But they're in a situation where I don't think they're going to flatten out. It's just a tough situation going on the road against a tough defense like the Browns. Yeah. But, you get to the point, like Stefanski's in and the Browns are in, you wonder at some point these players have to say, this is crap. We came into this league trying to win, and we can't even – what their game last week was horrible. They was just totally embarrassing what this team is doing. And they're like the Raiders. For God's sake, the Raiders stink, and so do the Browns.
Well,
has there ever been a team in maybe not let's go back to the 1970s or 80s that has had 2 games in the same season where they gained less than 100 total yards? Because the Raiders have done that this year. Ironically enough, they've lost both games 31-0, and even more ironically, both of those losses were to the Super Bowl teams from last year.
The answer to that question
City.
is no. I ran that through AI and through a couple of AIs, and they both come back with no. Nobody has ever done that.
Okay.
So that was a
Until
record.
now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not the kind you want.
No.
We touched up a little bit on the Tampa Bay Carolina game. I know John wanted to know our thoughts. I do have to ask you guys: Did everybody get an opportunity to get to check out Todd Bowles' press conference?
Yes.
No.
All I heard were bleeps.
Mark?
Yeah,
I did not. No.
he bleeped everything. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you should have. So Jim did. So yeah, when you get a chance, look, I don't know if our viewers or how many did, but I got a couple of bites here we can check out in case no one did.
3rd and 28.
So here's a question he's going to ask. Check this question out. And let me know what you guys think about this first question. Then I'll get to the bleep part.
4th and 14, you don't blitz. Maybe it's some plays. Why do you not stay aggressive in those situations when it's working?
3rd and 28, you got to be able to play.
He was talking about why not stay aggressive when it was 3rd and 28 because they were blitzing a lot. So at 3rd and 28, why not stay aggressive? So here's his answer.
14, you don't blitz. Maybe it's some plays. Why do you not stay aggressive in those situations when it's working?
3rd and 28, you got to be able to play it. It's 3rd and 28. It doesn't matter whether you rush 4-man, 5-man, or 6-man. You know where the ball's going. You got to get off the field. It was inexcusable the way we played the 4th and 14.
Why not keep blitzing?
You could say that. In 4th and 14, if they get one out quick and throw a screen, you got nobody there. It's a touchdown. That's not even an issue right there.
I got to ask you guys, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because, so we've watched a lot of football over the years. Anytime, and we talked about this last year in the Texas-Arizona State game, when it was 4th down and 15 or whatever it was, and Arizona State blitzed, and they got beat for a touchdown. The fact that this reporter asked this question just shows you that these reporters don't know football. What do you mean you don't understand why he's not blitzing on 3rd and 28 or 4th and whatever? Who should be blitzing in that circumstance?
No, and that
Give him the 20 yards. That leaves him 8 yards short of the first down.
You should be playing prevent
Yeah.
defense in that situation, not blitzing.
Ridiculous. So here's the comment that let me just make sure I line it up. Here it is. It's 134. And in case,
By the way, I'd
anybody-
love to have seen how Jim Mora would have responded to a question like that. He would have shown a little bit of passion, I think.
a little bit more.
Blitz?
Yeah.
Are you saying blitz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blitz.
What is
We'll be
this?
lucky if we can even find where the quarterback is.
What is this question for? Where to go? Seattle last 10 years, 2-7-1. ATS last home game of the regular season, and last regular season division game 3-7 ATS.
Oh, this
From
is not
the
their last
playbook.
division game.
That's from Playbook.
last home game. Yeah.
Mark, I guess that-
Yeah, again, when I see things like that, they're notable, but are they bettable? That's the question to me. It's a trend, okay? And a trend to me applies only if all of that happened under the same head coach. But it hasn't. This team has taken a whole new complexion the last 2 years. So while they've struggled before in the past in last home games, I don't necessarily think it's going to continue to keep happening because this coach has shown otherwise. That's my answer to that.
And just didn't execute it.
What do you tell them in the locker room after a game like this?
It's inexcusable. You don't make excuses. You got to care enough where the shit hurts. You got to care enough where the shit hurts. It got to mean something to you. It's more than a
Why
job.
don't you speak like
Why
it
do
hurts?
you-
You're really answering just
How
a
well
blah,
do you
blah,
know
blah,
your
blah.
job? How well can you do your job? Well, you can't sugarcoat it. It was inexcusable, and there's no answer for it. There's no excuse for it. That's what you tell them in the locker room. Look in the mirror.
If they don't respond to this, then I'm not sure they're going to respond to anything the rest of the year. Because Todd Bowles is not a guy that usually throws out these types of expletives. He's a pretty laid back kind of guy. I know as a Jet fan.
Did you hear him throw any F-bombs in that commentary? I did not.
Well, they cut it all out.
Well, they bleeped it out. They cut it out.
Oh, they showed a
There
clean
must have been
version.
about a dozen of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Every time you heard a little silent thing, that was him cursing. So he must have said it at least 7 times.
So his audio was redacted, is what happened there.
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. So yeah. And then that's we'll see how the team responds. Again, they're as healthy as they've been on offense, especially all season.
The thing that's interesting here, though, that was the Thursday night game. Carolina had a great advantage to take opportunity to take advantage of that, and they bomb against the Saints.
That's right. Yeah.
With the lead most of the game.
Yes. Which is really the way Carolina's played all season. They've alternated wins and losses for the last 8 games. And basically it's like if they're expected to win, they don't win. And when nobody expects them to win, they win. That's been their season. I don't know who you guys think, what you guys think about the game. I actually wouldn't be, if I was betting the game, and I'm not, but 3 points, I think it is. If I'm betting the game, I'm not giving 3 points if I'm not taking Tampa Bay. I mean, I'd rather just take Carolina again because, again, they just keep doing things we don't expect them to do.
There's another game very much like that on the card this week, and that's Atlanta at Arizona. Why is Atlanta favored on the road? Arizona plays all these close games, and look at who they played during a lot of this stretch where they lost by margin. They've been playing the better teams in the league. I think it's a great spot for the Cardinals.
My main concern about Carolina this week, Greg, is the fact that while they've been flipping wins and losses and playing better football now than they started the season here, they're just 1-7 in the stats their last 8 football games. And eventually, that'll catch up with you. And will it catch up with you to a team that is playing with need or as much need as that you have here? I think it makes a real difficult handicap, that game, personally. Jim, do you like anybody in that Bucks Panthers game?
I mean, Carolina's not a great team. Tampa Bay's playing like a bad team. I mean, it's just so difficult. You look at that and you say, probably the line should be pick 'em. It shouldn't be 3, but I don't feel comfortable with it. I would lean. Tampa Bay's got some of their players back, and that makes a difference. And you would think they're going to react positively off of what Bowles did, but Carolina, this is a big game for them. Their franchise has done nothing for years, and Tampa's won this division for years. So this is a huge game for Carolina. I know it doesn't mean much to a lot of people, but I expect a real big effort from both clubs. I just don't know. I have no real feel for it. No real feel.
I'm with you. 100%.
Tampa's got a much better opportunity.
I'm taking a 3 with Carolina.
You would take Carolina too?
Plus 3 or more.
Yeah,
not
I agree.
2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, Tampa Bay definitely, if you look at it, they will be in the driver's seat if they win.
They're the more talented
and that
team.
too, because Mike Evans is back, Godwin's back, McMillan's back,
Evans is back.
Luka. They've got Irving. They're completely loaded on offense now. But it's been their defense has been letting down. But what do you guys think about Baker too? Because he throws the interception, which opened up the door, and I don't think he threw a spiral in the game.
I don't think he's healthy.
I don't know. I agree.
Yeah. That's another thing. He's the kind of guy that no matter how hurt he is, he's going to play.
He would never complain about it. Never tell you about it.
No, he doesn't. And
right.
I don't think he's healthy.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jim.
Yeah.
We talked about Tampa Bay last week. They're now 0-8 against the spread. Their last 8 at home on Thursday Night Football. So some people might go, that's a silly trend. Well, 0-8 after losing again last week. Well, if you don't think it's silly, this week they are 5-0-1 against the spread in their last 6 after Thursday Night Football. So you can get that in Marc Lawrence's playbook.
Well, the stat devil would tell you that Tampa's worse than Carolina. Recently in the stats, they're 1-9 in the stats their last 10 football games. You have a matchup of 2 teams that are really heading south here, guys. At least statistically.
Yeah.
And I agree with basically what everybody said here. I don't know why Tampa is 3 in the football game. Name and reputation, probably more so than anything else, because it's certainly not for current form.
Both of these teams have been outscored on the season. That tells you something. If you're 7-7, you should be outscoring your opposition, or at least you should be even in the in those categories as far as
No.
let me see here. Tampa Bay is being outscored by 27 points. Carolina by 53.
Trend trackers, again, great information. Thank you. Bryce Young has covered 8 straight as a home underdog, winning 6 straight, 6 outright. I mean, we know that they win games as an underdog, and they do that. I mean, they went Green Bay and won as a big underdog. This is what they do. This is a spot where, under normal circumstances, we'd look at this game and say, this is a division home underdog. Automatically, you take the dog. I mean, it's just what we've done for years.
Yeah.
So, and then Tampa, you look at their current form, it's horrible. And it's that's why
0-6 against the spread.
Carolina, but I'm not going to do anything with it.
0-6 against the spread since the bye.
Yards per play defensively allowed. Tampa Bay 5.8. Carolina 5.6. We all think of Tampa Bay as being the better defensive team, but the numbers don't suggest that in many categories.
No,
They're
no, it
allowing
doesn't.
3 points less per game than is Tampa Bay.
Andy, you mentioned the net points. They're both negative. So too is every team in that division.
Yes, I
That's-
was going to mention.
That speaks for itself of what the NFC
I
South
think there
is
was
all
another
about.
division that was like that for a while.
That was close to that, but got out of, but shook it.
Yeah, but they switched around a little bit now.
Well, that could have been the NFC East. I don't know if the Eagles were ever negative, but all the other
they've
teams
been real
are.
close. They've been real close though.
Yes, right.
Tampa Bay has beaten Carolina 5 straight overall. And we all know they're going to be playing a second time in a couple of weeks. Next week, again, as we mentioned, Seattle is on deck for Carolina at home next week. But Tampa Bay goes to Miami. So it's a major edge for Tampa Bay as far as that sandwich game in between.
Which makes
these
this
two
game
matchups.
even more important for Carolina because the next game against Tampa Bay is on the road. You got to
Yeah.
win the home game. If Carolina wins, if Carolina does not win here,
They're in big trouble.
yeah, especially with the game against Seattle,
Yep.
who's still contending for a number 1 seed with the Rams.
And if they lose to the Rams, they might be contending for a playoff spot. That's how crazy that conference is.
No, that's right.
Hey guys, we got to put the wraps on the NFL because we have some college football to talk about, and I want to thank Jim Feist for joining us. Jim, as always, your information is second to none, and I'm glad to see you're looking good. I hope you're feeling good, and looking forward to catching up with you again next week down the road.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Take
Thank
care,
you, guys.
Jim. See you tomorrow,
You too,
Jim.
Good luck, and we can.
Yes, you're right.
Alrighty, guys, that was the legendary Jim Feist talking some NFL football with us. We had the pleasure of sitting in with Jim. Now we're going to move it over to the college football side of things where it's nothing but bowls or college football playoff from this point forward. And as we do that, I want to remind our listeners out there that I know, Greg, you probably talked about this at the beginning of the podcast when I was a little bit late showing up for the show. But did you mention anything to their listeners out there about our liking or subscribing and ringing the bell, all those good things, but more importantly, about our perks for our picks and selections on the channel? Did you mention that?
No, you just did.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to encourage everybody to go to the join button where you're going to find Jim Feist, myself, Andy Iskoe, Greg DePalma, and you can pick up our picks at costs that are just unbelievably under wholesale. Visit our community page at Proline TV. You can sign up for all that and get all of our picks and selections, the games that we like the most, when you sign up on the community page for our Proline TV picks. All right, guys, let's move it over to the national or the college football side of things, and we're going to be getting deeper and deeper into the college bowl games as they're now here. The first question I'm oftentimes asked is, what's the first thing that I'm looking for when it comes to handicapping the college football bowl games? And my standard answer has always been, and it probably still continues to be, looking for teams that are thrilled to be bowling and looking for teams that are disappointed to be where they're at in a bowl game. And I'm going to throw this to you, Andy. Which college football bowl team do you think is thrilled to be?
By the way,
in a
we
game?
saw that. We just saw that. We just saw that last night with Delaware.
Oh, yes. And didn't that play out,
As
didn't
far
it?
as,
Yes, it
yeah,
did.
I mean they were first year at the FBS level. We have that tonight with Missouri State.
Yeah, both teams
First
that
year
were
in
both
FBS.
technically bowl ineligible, but filled in because of they needed the fill-ins. But
Yeah.
boy, anytime you fill into a bowl slot, you're thrilled to be there. Unquestionably, we'll see if we can see a little bit more of that of Missouri State. So that would lead then, Andy, to which team you think is in the bowl game that they're most disappointed to be in for the 2025 college bowls?
I actually thought that both teams that played on Saturday, Boise and Washington, deserved better bowls than to be playing the first bowl game on following Army Navy. Usually the first bowl game of the season is between, like we saw on Monday night, a Kennesaw State and a Troy or a Jacksonville State, those kind of teams. So I hadn't really given it that much thought yet as far as the teams that were disappointed. But just looking at some of the matchups where teams I thought deserved to be perhaps in better. No, okay. Here's a game. I'll tell you, and that's it. When you take a look at the bowl matchups, I take a look at the Pinstripe Bowl, Yankee Stadium. I'm saying Penn State and Clemson. Boy, weren't these teams number 1 and number 3 at the start of the season? Wow, why are they only playing in the Pinstripe Bowl? Shouldn't they be playing in the Orange Bowl or something? I think both teams are disappointed, obviously, at playing in these bowls. But what you're looking for, Mark, is you're looking for a team that's excited to be there versus a team that couldn't care less. And unfortunately, I think both Penn State and Clemson are in the couldn't care less game. I think BYU might be a little disappointed that they're only playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and it's an early game on the 27th. They're going up against a Georgia Tech team. However, that is equally as disappointed considering the season that they were having when they started with their first 7-8 games of the year. I know one of the more intriguing matchups is the Iowa Vanderbilt in the ReliaQuest Bowl on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
That's an interesting one because you've got offense versus defense, and guy was there for the Heisman Trophy, didn't take finishing second all that well against an Iowa team that all of a sudden found its offense against Nebraska in the last game of the season, going over the total points in the game by themselves. What was it, 40-something they scored, I think, in that game. So maybe a team like Texas is disappointed because they could have been in the playoffs. I would answer Notre Dame, but they did the thing that I can understand. They said, we deserve to be in there. We played for the national championship last year. We're going to opt out. I think that's still a decision that the committee and the TV networks are going to be very upset about. So I don't know that you probably have a good answer on that, but I would have to say that the ones that I mentioned are the ones that initially came to mind as I scoured over the schedule.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the two new kids in the block, the two new FBS teams are absolutely thrilled to be in the bowl games they are. And we saw the one result with Delaware, and we might see the second result with Missouri State here as well. And as far as being disappointed to be in a bowl game that they are, I would like to say BYU because they were ranked number 12 in the college football playoff rankings and got shoved aside. And they played in a championship game and got pushed out, penalized because they did just that. That might be a bitter pill to swallow for a football team like that. Greg, what would your thoughts be?
By the way, while you're talking, because I mentioned Georgia Tech, how would you handicap? I can't think Georgia Tech is all that excited to be where they are, the way that their season imploded at the end. How would you handicap a game where you really don't think either team is all that excited to be there or both expected more?
To say neither team is excited to be there, I guess you can make that the Penn State Clemson case.
That's the one I mentioned. Yeah. Also, that's another one, how they would.
Right.
However, Penn State and Clemson knew pretty early on in the season they might not even make bowl games. Georgia Tech had visions of winning the ACC championship until the middle of November.
Well, Andy, all I can say is this. Georgia Tech can blame only Georgia Tech for being where they are this football season here.
Yeah, BYU would probably they'd be one of those teams that – because they felt the same way last year.
Yeah.
And yet they did respond. They blew out Colorado. And I think Colorado still played. Did Sanders play in that game? I know Hunter played. So I think they were okay. So BYU definitely showed that they, and I would expect BYU, the type of program they are, I think that both of those teams will come out and play.
I think more so
tough.
BYU, because I think they want to send a message to the committee that what they did was wrong, and if they go out and do what some teams have done when they've been left out, what is it? Win 55-10 or something. Georgia Tech has to be disappointed because they were on a path that was leading to a better bowl game than this one. But they knew as their season wound down that they weren't going to achieve any of those goals. BYU fully expected to be once the committee said, well, we're not going to take penalize teams for a conference game, championship game performance because you're playing the extra game. I think BYU fully expected to be in the CFP as one of the last teams. I think they're going to be out to send a message. Georgia Tech, I think, is probably, and I'm totally wrong on this. They might just say, we didn't do anything at the end of the season when we had our chance. We failed in all of our opportunities. We just want our season to end.
Well, my point of contention with Georgia Tech is this, and everybody wanted them. They looked like a nice team, under the radar type team that was going to maybe steal the ACC at a certain point of the season. And then we put our bowl report together. And when it's all said and done, I look at the bowl report. The first thing I do is to look to see how these teams that made the bowl games fared against other bowl teams this year. Were they able to step up and play to the ilk that they're going to be playing here this year? And I almost flipped off my seat when I read this there that Georgia Tech went up against 6 bowl teams this year and was out-yarded in all 6 football games. That's inexcusable for an ACC Power 4 type football team. The other 3 teams that did just that were Central Michigan, Cincinnati, and Coastal Carolina. So are we putting Georgia Tech in their class? At least statistically, maybe we are. But I think the case for them crying about being in a bowl game they shouldn't be in ends right there because of how they perform statistically, at least, against other bowl teams.
Yeah, that and the way their season ended.
Yes. On top of
if they wanted to, just go out and beat Pittsburgh at home. That's they do that. They're in the ACC championship game.
And if I remember, they were never in that game, were they?
No, they were down 28-0.
Yeah.
So
I know because I had Georgia Tech in that game.
I'm surprised that they don't fire or haven't fired the defensive coordinator yet. Maybe they will at the end of the season because
Steve Wilkes is available.
Oh, thank God. But he's a new defensive coordinator. He came on board this year, and he has not obviously done the job. So it's too bad too because they ruined a season when you had one of the best college quarterbacks that Georgia Tech is maybe ever going to have in Haynes King, and you just basically ruined his season because you couldn't stop anybody. So
let me sign off on my in the stats type stuff, guys, and then we'll move on here. But there's only one of these bowl teams that beat every team in the yardage this year in other bowler versus bowler matchups. Only one. That was the Indiana Hoosiers. They won the stats against all 7 other bowl teams they played this year.
See, this is the other thing that's going to be really difficult, Mark. And I know you know it. Historically speaking, you're doing all these bowl reports and so forth. I think we mentioned this the other day, but when I'm going over all these playoff games, I honestly I've got to look up what bowl game it is. They could say it's a bowl game and it is a bowl game, but it ain't a bowl game. There's a playoff game, and if it's so that's something I think is going to be interesting to monitor with your stats over the next several years. Is as long as they keep saying that these are bowl games, then how will the numbers look, say, over a 3-4? How many years do you want to go into before you start seeing a pattern where you say, okay, before the playoffs and during the playoffs regarding these bowl stats? Because they're different. Bowl games are not playoff games. They're just not.
Well, you can also make the case that playoff games are not bowl games.
Yeah.
The same way, although they're being played during the bowl season.
Mm-hmm.
And at some stage and point, they do enter into a quasi-designated bowl. The next round of the college football bowl games, the quarterfinals, will all be played in bowls.
Yeah.
In that sense. So it's kind of a wild and wacky football world we're asking here. Let me ask you guys this one question here. We've got 2 teams that are a group of 5 teams that made the playoffs this year, and everybody disses them. And, whether or not they belong here or not is an argument for another subject, depending upon what the purpose of these college football playoffs is all about. But we do have 2 of them this year. And my question to you, let me pose this to you, Andy, is between Tulane and James Madison, which of the two were you surprised the most about? And do either of these two teams stand a chance of winning their playoff game?
Well, let me go back to something I think I brought up last week, and that was an error on the part of the committee. When they devised the guidelines, they took the they took the conference champions of the 5 major conferences, which at that time include the Pac-12. When the Pac-12 got eliminated from qualification as a conference because it's only Oregon State and Washington State, the committee should have said, we're going to change it from 5 to 4, which would have been the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC, and then the highest ranking group of 5 team. So even if you threw out the ACC this year, and they did get Miami in there as a representative, only one between Tulane and James Madison would have made it under that group of 5 slot. There should not have been 2 slots available for group of 5 teams. In fact, I would like to say that maybe the group of 5 should have their own little tournament at the end of the year. They'll get ratings now that everybody can bet them across the country, and they will be able to have the revenues. I don't know what the attendance will be, but it'll be the TV contracts that will pay a lot of the monies there. As far as Tulane and James Madison, my approach, Oregon's playing so well. My approach to the James Madison-Oregon game is I might consider strongly playing James Madison in the first half. They might be able to hang around for a while, and ultimately Oregon's better talent, deeper roster, greater speed, greater strength, etc., will break away in the second half. In the Tulane-Mississippi game, I do think Tulane comes from the better conference than does James Madison, so they played better quality group of 5 teams. But we already saw Mississippi and Tulane play, 45-10 at Ole Miss, where this game is going to be played as well. And I think they totally outstatted them significantly in that game, if I remember. So we may have already seen Tulane and Ole Miss play. I would think, but I see, whereas I can consider James Madison for the first half against Oregon, I'm not sure I could say the same about Tulane going up against Ole Miss. Now, of course, we do have the Lane Kiffin situation and the fact that he did allow some of the assistant coaches to come back and coach in Mississippi. Mississippi, they had only that one loss to Georgia in midseason where they were leading for a good part of that game. Mississippi, I think, is a legitimate contender to win the whole thing. And I think Mississippi's going to go out there and prove we don't need you, Lane Kiffin, to win a national championship. And it starts with Tulane, a team that they beat earlier this year. Can Tulane cover it? Yeah, they're a decent team, but they're going up against, I think, a very, very highly motivated team. Now, John Summerall, I'm not sure. Is he coaching Tulane?
Yes,
he is. Okay, before he heads out to his new job. I just think Tulane's in a really bad spot because they're probably playing the one team that it would be extremely excited. Normally, you would think Ole Miss would be overconfident in the second game, but I think you like to use the word mission team. I think this postseason, Ole Miss is that team.
You think they're that team because of the Lane Kiffin situation?
Yes. Well, and they have the talent to win a national championship. They displayed that during the regular season.
But it's the Lane Kiffin situation that makes them a mission team.
Yeah, to prove that they can win without him.
Right.
Especially the assistant coaches, even though they were allowed to come back and coach.
Does the worst loss ever in Summerall's career affect that thinking and the fact that it only happened just this year?
It would if it weren't for the Lane Kiffin situation.
So if they beat them earlier this year, what was it, 45-10 with Kiffin? Yeah. They laid 11.5 in that game. They're laying 17.5 right now, at the same scene of the crime.
And I'm sure that part of that was related to that first game, why the line is that high.
What was that?
I think the change, that 6-point swing in the line, was because of the results of the first game and the fact that it's being played at the same field.
Well, I would have, what intrigues me to the game is the revenge aspect. It's very seldom you get same season revenge right back rematches in bowl games, especially those to this degree, 35.
I'd feel more comfortable, for example, in the Alabama and Oklahoma game going with Alabama, because those teams are at the same talent level and it was a competitive game that they played. And obviously it's a different line there. It's basically a pick 'em game as opposed to this game. I understand where you're headed on this, though. Go ahead.
Greg, what's your thought here about the Alabama-Oklahoma game? Is revenge a big aspect for Alabama in this football game, or is Oklahoma's defense just too good?
I just noticed, and I don't know if this is across the board, that Oklahoma is now the favorite.
Yes, they are.
So that just happened in the last 24 hours. And maybe that's a good thing for Alabama because they had not been good as a road favorite this year. I don't know about the revenge thing in a playoff game, but I do think it matters a little bit. We saw that last year. You could say what you want about the Oregon-Ohio State result. But that was one where we did see that. So we don't have a whole lot to go on in these playoffs, but that was something that definitely made sense. What I kind of don't like is, and I know double revenge is also in play, is just the fact that I look at it as a bad matchup for Alabama, like we talked about a month ago.
Can't run the ball.
They can't run the ball, and Oklahoma is one of the best run defenses in the nation, which leads me to believe then that Oklahoma is probably going to go into this game saying, okay, well, we know we can stop them against the run, so now let's try it. Let's try to do, again, I'm just using some silly kind of example, but all right, let's say we have a linebacker that's really good in run defense. Well, I'm going to take that out now because we could stop the run without him, and I'm taking in a defensive back to stop the passing game. So now I'm going to go with an extra defensive back instead of a linebacker, and maybe that'll help. Something like that, where you would think with a few weeks to prepare that Venables would understand that. So, and then there's also the confidence factor. I just don't know what's going on in the heads of these kids at Alabama. They can't be confident. They've had a terrible end stretch to the season. They got blown out in the SEC championship game. There's still even talk about Kalen DeBoer, maybe even now being the Michigan coach. Yeah. That hasn't stopped. That might, and I looked up the time frame too of when this losing streak or this bad play started. It actually started a week after James Franklin was fired. And when we had our Penn State guys on, Marty and Dylan, and I asked them about all the coaches and who were the top three candidates, well, Kalen DeBoer was like at the top of the list. So ever since James Franklin was fired, Alabama kids have known that Kalen DeBoer might be going to Penn State. And is that a coincidence that they played, as bad as they've played all, the rest of the season? So you have to throw that into the equation. I also like the fact that even though Mateer threw 3 interceptions against LSU, he did throw for over 300 yards against a really good defense. I think that matters because Mateer has got to play like he did earlier in the season. I don't think they have a chance to beat these types of teams unless Mateer looks like the quarterback that they got the first month of the season before the hand injury. So maybe throwing for over 300 yards, maybe that'll help them as well. And so throw all that into the equation. And I'm either take Oklahoma or I'm not taking the game. I got beat by Alabama in this SEC championship game, embarrassed, and I haven't liked the way they played. And I can't put my money on that team right now.
Well, I'm the same way, sort of, because I mentioned the revenge factor for Alabama, but I'm going to be on Oklahoma here because this is not Nick Saban's Alabama, and we've seen quite a drop off in the 2 seasons since he's been gone. Right? So they may have the talent, they may have the range, but maybe they just don't have. And again, we pointed out the weakness of that running game. I cannot recall an Alabama team under Nick Saban that could not run the football.
I know. Can you believe Alabama can't run the football?
Last 2 years, they averaged like 100. They averaged like 192 yards rushing the ball the last 2 years, and it was harder than that 3 years ago. And they're at 120 this year. They rank 120th, I think, in rushing offense this year, Alabama.
Well, let me set the table for you guys for this game here, if I could. What we're looking at here is 2 Southeast Conference powerhouses that are going to go toe-to-toe in a rematch game. One of them had the same record as the other one did at the end of the season. The other one played better than the other did, to the point where he was elevated to the SEC championship game. He lost the SEC championship game, and now he's the underdog to the team that did not play in the College Bowl championship game. If Oklahoma had made the SEC championship game, would they be in the playoffs with 3 losses?
No.
That's my question.
No, I don't think so, because I don't even think Alabama should be there. And the only reason I think Alabama's there is because they're Alabama.
And they got a nice, easy late season walkover win over against Eastern Illinois, much like
Oh, yeah,
Miami
that was
did
impressive.
early in the
That's
season
right.
against
Yes.
Bethune-Cookman. Oklahoma, Oklahoma may have. I don't know if Oklahoma played one of those
They did.
FCS
They
teams.
did.
Early in the year, I think.
No, at the end of the year.
Oklahoma, I'm talking about.
Oh, Oklahoma? No.
Alabama,
they
no,
did.
No, Oklahoma, I don't think did. No. Let me see.
Illinois,
Who
they played
Oklahoma-
Illinois State to open the season.
There you go.
Yeah, to open the season.
That's when you should play those games.
See, that's the argument I made for Notre Dame being included. They did not play any FCS team. I'm sorry. Notre Dame did not. Miami did.
True.
Oklahoma is 5-1 straight up all time against Alabama, and the dog in the series, which is now Alabama, has covered all
6-0
series.
Yes. You know, the nice thing about Oklahoma and what it is that they really bring to the table in this game is a superior defense.
Yeah.
And you take a look at what they've done, their body of work. In 9 of their 12 games this year, they've held opponents to season low yards. That's pretty impressive. 2 of the other 3 games, they held opponents to second low season yards. Alabama is going to be up against it defensively in this football game, and Kalen DeBoer has got to put a game plan together, probably the best game plan he's put together thus far this football season, because Oklahoma can play. And last year when we went to this college football playoff and we seeded home teams, all 4 home teams won and covered their college football playoff game.
If I'm Alabama and I'm Kalen DeBoer, I just keep emphasizing all week. -3 rushing yards against Georgia. -3 rushing yards, guys.
Yeah, they
They've
were
gotta find a
held.
cure.
Yeah, last year when Oklahoma, they only gave up 3 points to Alabama, and then this year in both games they held Alabama to 2.3 and 2.4 yards per rush. So they're not going to run the ball. It's just not going to happen.
I think in the first game this year, in the game against Oklahoma, didn't Alabama gain only like 80 yards rushing?
Could have been, yeah. It probably was, I guess, I don't know if it was even that much. It might have been something like 30 rushes, 60 yards, 65 yards to get that 2.3 average, 2.4 average. So,
well, guys, let's wrap up our show here, our college show, and let's get into the other college football playoff game this weekend. Miami of Florida goes to Texas A&M. Miami of Florida, probably a football team, Andy, we could have talked about being elated to be where they are. Maybe they think that they deserve to be where they are, but there was a long period of time when it looked like they weren't going to be here. And playing Texas A&M, one quick question I have to throw at you guys. This game's going to start at 11 a.m. Central Time. That's for the home team, Texas A&M Aggies. Do you feel that the 12th man advantage will be lessened because of an 11 a.m. start for Texas A&M, or will the fans be all oiled up early enough in the day that it won't matter?
Instead of getting started with their partying at 3 p.m., they may be getting started at 3 a.m. down there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I wonder if the networks decided to have this game early for the very reason that maybe they didn't want it to be that much. They want it, A&M has a huge advantage. I think they have an even a greater advantage if this game is played under the lights. So maybe the thinking of the committee was, it's an attractive matchup, but we also want it to be a competitive matchup, and it might be more competitive having it the early game rather than the late game.
Yeah, we might get a more competitive football game.
It's a big surprise. I mean, college football, every sport nowadays wants all of their big games at night as late as possible. And instead, they're going to have the 20-point spread game as the night game tonight. It really doesn't make any sense.
As opposed to a 3-point spread, which suggests that A&M and Miami should be by far the most competitive of the 4 playing games.
This is the only game. I mean, because the Alabama-Oklahoma game, even though that'd probably be a close game, it's probably not going to be very fun to watch. It's probably going to be like a
2017 type game.
What? Yeah, like we saw in the championship games last week. It's going to be one of those games. But this game has the opportunity to be. Matter of fact, I'd probably take the over. I'm not a total guy, but I can't. With all the talent that's out there on that field offensively, I'm going to be surprised that this isn't a pretty high.
Which one? You're talking about the A&M game or the Oklahoma?
Yeah, the A&M game. This game is. I can't imagine it's not like a 30-27 type game.
Was Carson Beck on one of those Georgia championship games 2 years ago? I think.
I believe he was. I believe he
the
was.
Miami quarterback now. So he's got that experience.
Oh, he's battle tested, right? No doubt about that. And matter of fact, after the loss against SMU, I had Gary Furman on from Kane Sport, and he talked about they made some changes to the offense, and one of the changes they made more than anything was philosophical, which was because one of the things Cristobal has been criticized for is being too, I don't want to say boring, but too conservative.
Stubborn.
Too conservative. And they really kind of unleashed that conservatism after the SMU game. They became more wide open, and they outscored their last 4 opponents since the loss by a 151-41 margin. So it was their best ACC run of the season, maybe their best run of the season in general. But not that they played a whole lot of great teams, but still their offense. And that's the one thing I am concerned too about Miami is their top weapon on offense is a true freshman. Now that might be okay for a game, but I'd be a little bit concerned more. And even though I'm going to put some money on Miami to win the national championship because it's too good at 20-1, that I'm going to be a little bit concerned with the true freshman wide receiver being the guy. So same reason why I feel that way with Oregon. I think there's too many underclassmen that are really big-time playmakers for Oregon's offense as well.
Well, guys, let me ask you this question here. Coming into this particular bowl matchup here, and this should be a pretty good football game. Normally, one of my better systems out of my cookbook, what I always call the cookbook, the football handicapping systems book, was always to fade teams in bowl games that came off a season-ending first loss of the season, with the theory being that their back was broke in the last game. And maybe they're not as geeked up in this game as they could have or should have been. Now, that's the case in this contest for Texas A&M. My question is,
With
does
one
it
difference,
apply?
you're about to mention it.
Yeah, does it apply now that this is a college football playoff game? That's my question.
I would. My first instinct is no, for that very reason, because I was about to say it if you didn't mention it, but I figured you would. And that is, this is for, you're on the path for a legitimate playoff national title, meaning that in this case, you're going to have to beat 3 pretty good teams to win a national title. So I think they are able to shake off that loss. And in fact, they probably blew a number 1 seed over Georgia when they lost to, a higher seed, one of the top 4 seeds. When they lost to Texas, they probably would have replaced Georgia as one of the top 4 seeds. I happen to like, and I'm guessing Greg does as well since he's making a futures bet on them. I happen to like Miami in this game to get the win. A&M was tested a lot this year. They played a lot of sloppy. They improved defensively, but their defense was really terrible. Now, the thing that's interesting is that unlike many bowl games, these teams have had it's like an extended regular season because there was only one bye week for some of the teams, 2 bye weeks for these teams that haven't played since the end of the regular season, as opposed to a conference championship game for the 16 teams, 16 teams I think it was, that played in the conference championship games and are in bowl games. It's only a one bye week to get to this weekend. So the thing with A&M, yes, if you have a season-ending loss, whether it be in a conference championship game or the end of the regular season, and you're just going to the Pool and Weed Eater Bowl, yes, I think that you would be deflated and say we blew our chances at a great bowl game. But because this is not just a regular bowl game now, I kind of think Texas A&M will not have any after effects, especially since it was 3 weeks since they played their last game.
Greg, I have to ask you this question. This might not be in the Playbook Football Preview Guide magazine that you so nicely refer to all the time, but it is in this week's edition of the Playbook College Bowl Guide,
which I also saw.
Oh, good. And you probably saw the point that Miami of Florida has struggled terribly in bowl games.
Oh, yeah.
2-13 straight up and against the spread the last 15. Is that a concern for you?
Just a little bit, because as Andy said, this is now a playoff game. So it is. I do believe it's different. But if they lose, I guess we'll look at it as not different. It's one of those things that I guess we'll find out after the game. But yeah, I'm a little bit concerned with it because there's definitely at least 5 of those games out of those 13 you would think that they wanted to win. That it was really like a big deal. Maybe not all 13, because I think they're on a 1-12 in their last 13 run. But yeah, but I wouldn't be overly concerned with it, especially since this is a new regime and this is a playoff game. I will answer Andy's inquiry regarding who I picked, and even though I got a future money in Miami, I did not pick Miami because I have future money on Texas A&M. Basically, what I did was, this is the one thing that's really interesting that we have to remember. And I know it was different because you had a couple teams that were higher ranked last year because of the way the system was, Arizona State and Boise State. But remember, the national championship game was 7 seed versus 8 seed. And I think that this is, I don't see anything different this year, meaning I don't think that, oh, wow, Indiana, Ohio State are so much better than everybody else. They're the 1 and 2 seed. It should be Indiana and Ohio State. I think there are going to be a lot of upsets, just like last year. I think these teams are too equal to each other. I think anything can happen. All is possible. And therefore, if all is possible, the best thing to do is go with value. And that's why I'm taking, again, a little bit, obviously, I don't have to put as much on with the big teams, but I'm even putting a couple of bucks on Oklahoma at 50-1. I could put some money on Texas A&M, Miami, and Ole Miss, all between 20 and 30-1. And then the only team I'm putting money on that's a single digit team is Texas Tech. They're at about 8-1, something like that, a little over 8-1. So yeah, I think that this got the possibilities of another type of wide open affair, and I'm just going with value. And I think that's the way you should go, but we'll see. And I'm also, let's keep in mind what happens on Friday night, because if Oklahoma wins, that means it'll be now 5-0 straight up and against the spread for the home teams in the playoffs. And you might want to keep that in mind going into Saturday's games.
I have a question about Texas Tech, and I'm going to try to avoid being tongue twisted here. Has Texas Tech been tested?
That's a good question. No, they haven't.
No, not really. No, BYU is pretty much the toughest team. I mean, Arizona State was a good team at the time because they had their quarterback. They had Tyson there, who's going to be a top 10 draft pick. So they were a good team.
But they weren't football playoff caliber.
They were not tested like the teams in the SEC and the Big Ten.
No, not at all. No, not at all. So that's definitely.
So Andy, are you saying Texas Tech could be exposed here because of that?
I don't know if in their first game they will, as far as that goes, but because I like Texas Tech, it's the best team money can buy this year.
Yes, they are.
Maybe Ohio State's they're close.
100% right on that, Andy.
But they're going to have to, to win a national championship, they're going to have to win 3 games, most likely against teams that have been tested more than they have been tested.
The only thing that I'll say about that is don't forget what happened last year when it really should have been Arizona State beating Texas.
Yeah.
So Arizona State proved that just because they were the Big 12 winner and a big dog to Texas, that it didn't matter. They weren't tested either, and yet they should have won the game. So yeah, look, we all know, Mark, I know before we started the season, you were really high on Texas Tech. And here they now stand.
We all were.
But here they now stand as a legitimate playoff team with legitimate players. That's the important thing. You look at their pro prospects; they have them. They got a veteran quarterback. This is you have one of the best defensive teams in college football. They are going to be in any game they play. And I think again, when you're looking at value, I think they give that. They definitely qualify.
The Red Baron quarterback. Texas Tech, Baron Morton. One more thought here, guys, before we put the wrap on the show here today. Last year, we saw a number 8 seed win the college football playoff. Will we see anything that way this year?
Well, I already answered that question for me.
Well, you got Greg has the tickets on a few of those teams. Well, I think we all agreed last year.
What's that?
I think we all agreed last year that Ohio State was poorly seeded.
Yes, they were.
And the committee, I don't think they made that kind of mistake this year. As far as the teams outside, let me see, of the teams playing this weekend, the 8 teams that did not get the seed, so that's where we're looking at probably some upsets.
Yeah, out of this group playing this weekend.
I could see Oklahoma being a team that wins it all because, especially with Mateer, if she gets back into good form, and they already have a championship caliber defense. Don't know about Oregon. Don't know about Ole Miss. I think, again, as I mentioned before, I think even without the Kiffin situation, even if Kiffin was there, I think they have a real chance to win it. I would not be shocked if the team, if the winner of the Miami Texas A&M game pulls an upset in the next round.
It beats Ohio State. Wow.
Yeah,
That would
absolutely.
That would be a call. That
Yeah,
would be a
'cause
call.
the other thing
Indiana
too
is
is
probably the one team that is the most uncertain team in this tournament.
Andy,
And-
going back to what you mentioned before, moving forward, we're taking one of these teams playing this weekend and moving them all the way forward to a championship game. I think one of the teams you hit on is Oregon, who is likely the winner in this James Madison game. They'll face Texas Tech, who would then be their toughest opponent the Red Raiders have faced this football season. That could put Oregon in a nice position if it does. Then all of a sudden you've got Oregon in the semifinals.
And then remember last year, both teams that played for the national championship both played in the first round. So I think that's important to note. It even though they played the extra game, didn't matter. And then if you want to look at something that might be a bad omen for Indiana, they win the last year. Oregon won the Big Ten championship game, undefeated. They had the bye. They went to the Rose Bowl and they got blown out by Ohio State. Well, Indiana just won the Big Ten championship, undefeated, and they're now sitting at the Rose Bowl waiting to play the team that will match up with them next week.
By the way, one of the concerns that you have to wonder about is that these quarterfinal games with these final with the next round of teams, those 4 teams will have been inactive for 3 to 4 weeks. Could they be rusty? The Indianas, the Ohio States, the Texas Techs, and the Georgias.
Well, some of them were last year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that explains why we saw the top 4 seeds. We saw a couple of them struggle in that first game, even though they won.
Well, I'm going to close it out with one good note, one good stat for everybody that's watching the program here. We talked about the college football playoff, and we talked about how well home teams have fared this weekend, as we're going to see. There's another aspect of the college football playoff where a situation has done really well, and that's when teams enter into the college football playoff game off of a season-ending straight-up and point spread loss. That's happened 8 times. Those teams have gone 6-2 straight up and 7-1 against the spread. 6-0 to the spread if they're taking on a team off a win. That happens to be Alabama this particular week. So is that enough to offset the success of home teams that are hosting opponents as we're going to see this particular weekend? That's a question we're going to find out this week.
And John makes a good point regarding the fact that there will be an NFL game on Saturday night. I'll say this, if you're college football, and you know what? It's not a surprise because college football always makes dumb decisions and they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. But if anybody thinks that if they would have Texas A&M and Miami on Saturday night going up against the Eagles and Commanders, and the ratings wouldn't be heavily favored towards the college football playoff game, you're crazy. So once again, if college football actually decided to not go head-to-head with the NFL over that, it's a stupid decision.
Well, they will go head-to-head, Greg, in a sense with that with the Oregon Jimmy Madison game.
Yeah, well, that's just throwing them to the wolves.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't think. Well, watch. I'm going to be interested in the ratings. I'll tell you right now. I think more people will watch the Oregon James Madison game than the Eagles and the Commanders.
I would like to.
Well,
think
the Eagles
so,
and the Commanders is the Eagle Commander game is 2:00. The Packers are playing at 8:20 Eastern, 5:20 Pacific.
Yes,
That's the night game in the NFL.
Okay, that's what time is that second game?
The second playoff game?
NFL game?
Well, the rotation order, the Eagles game is 5:00 Eastern. The Packers Bears is 8:20 Eastern.
8:20.
Okay, well that's better then.
Right.
Yeah, because nobody's going to watch the Eagles and the Commanders, but Packers Bears, that's definitely
Packers and Bears will be going up against the they'll be going up against the night
Orlando
game.
and James Madison.
James Madison starts at 4:30, and so the NFL game will be started. So people will watch the first part of the Oregon James Madison game, and then about
Which
an hour
the
later
NFL
turn
will
to
win
the
that
Bears and
game,
Packers.
win that matchup for sure.
No question.
They'll go to whichever game is not a blowout. That's what they'll go to. If one team is blown.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about before. We'll talk about it tomorrow because Jim Feist will be on with us. We'll talk more tomorrow, starting at 3:00, because we'll dive into the whole Green Bay thing because they lose Parsons, and that's just a major blow. So that's just a shame. So.
All right, guys, great show here once again.
Make sure you discuss. Make sure tomorrow when you discuss that game, go against the team rallying around the fallen hero, because usually it's rallying around the quarterback. Here you're
Yes,
talking about rallying around one of the best
Micah
defensive
Parsons,
players in the league, if not the
All right,
best.
that's an interesting point, Andy. I don't think people really think about that when they do it. They're basically quarterback focused, but that's a real good point. All right, guys, until next week, once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. As Greg mentioned, Jim Feist and I and Greg will do a show tomorrow here on the ProLine TV network. You want to catch that? We'll touch a little bit of both NFL and college football as well. Until next week, once again, this is Marc Lawrence. Remind you to always remember to bet with your head, not over it. And good luck as always.